Let's talk about a direct coil or a direct fired heater. How does that work? I'm going to have to redraw a little bit here, so if you'll just bear with me for a second, I'll try to do it really fast. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to take this, leave that guy there, we're going to take this and we're going to go into a fired heater now. The fired heater is, let's put it in like this. Okay, I'm going to draw a fired heater that, you know, happens to kind of look like a THM fired heater. I know that's a big surprise to you. And it's going to have a coil, convection coil, and it's got a radiant coil, and then it comes out, and then we're going to go back in to here, and then of course it has a burner on it, right? That burner is inside of that radiant coil, but the amine is contained in a pipe, in a coil, and I'm directly heating the amine. Obviously I've got flue gas coming out of this. This is called a direct fired amine heater, or we can call it a direct coil, just to make it more clarified for you. And this is a pretty good way to do it. It's actually technically better than the fire tube, and it's better because I've got things are moving, right? I've got a good inside heat transfer coefficient because I have good velocity of the amine solution in that pipe. I've got obviously good movement of flue gas across that, but primarily it's good because my inside heat transfer coefficient for the amine solution is going to be really high because it's moving liquid, and I can take high pressure drop, high velocities, and I can heat it more gently than I would with a fire tube. So as I heat it, what happens? So I'm taking this stream from the regenerator into the fired heater, I heat it up. I still have to have a device that allows this steam to be separated from that liquid. Typically you have, you know, you may create a little bit of steam in here. You can do it where there's no steam, but typically you might have 10% vapor coming out of the heater, and it's got to disengage from the 90% liquid. And typically you have some type of separator. I've just left this as a separator, and that's the way the direct coil or fired heater works. Okay, now let's go on and talk about the hot oil heater. How does that work? What is the heat medium? I'm going to have to do some more revision to my artwork here. Let's do that again. All right. So this is going to go back into here. The liquid's back. This kind of looks like it was before, but I still need to add some heat in here. Before, I had a fire tube. Now instead of a fire tube, what I want to do with the hot oil is I want to have a tube bundle. And I'm just going to kind of draw something that approximates what that might look like. And it's going to have, instead of fire tube, it's going to have liquid or hot oil tubes in here. I'm just going to draw it like that. You know, typically there's a bunch of these guys in here instead of one big one. There's never just one big one. So there's multiple guys, and I'm going to send this hot oil down and back, and I'm going to come in the top of this manifold, and I'm going to come out of the bottom. So I've got hot oil coming in and hot oil coming out. Less hot, right? Because it's been cooled. So why do I like this? Well, let's talk about the temperatures for starters. One, a typical temperature coming in for a hot oil system, typical temperature is about, let's say, 400 degrees F. What did I say earlier was the fire tube temperature? I said it was around 550 in that range. So this is a lot lower. This means I'm heating this amine solution much gentler. So it actually, I don't get nearly as close to this fall off a cliff number now because I'm heating it much gentler. The other thing that we like is the control of this. I can create a control system that gives me, like, you know, plus plus minus maybe 1 degrees F. So I'm not having excursions where that tube metal gets really hot because I can control it with a great deal of accuracy. So what does the rest of this system look like? Well, one, I have to have a hot oil heater, of course, right? But also have to have some pumps too. Let me see if I can draw this. If I have a pump, let me see, let's draw it like this. That's a pretty bad looking pump. But then I've got to go into a heater. Again, it's our kind of heater. This is really nice. Coil, burner, and then it comes out and then back in here, okay? So I have to have some other bells and whistles for the hot oil heating type of system. I've got to have a pump. What I didn't show in here, I also have to have expansion tank in here because this expands as we heat this system. Have to have an expansion tank, pump, and a hot oil heater. I'm just going to say that. So I have to have some other bells and whistles to do this type of arrangement or this type of heating for a reboiler. But I really like the process. I really like the process because it gently heats this. I have great control of the fluid itself. I'm not worried about degrading that amine solution ever if we pick these temperatures right, and 400 degrees is fine. You could even go 350 if you wanted to, if you were even worried about that as well. Obviously, the higher you go here, the less heat transfer surface, the lower the actual capital costs are. There's always trade-offs, right? If you want something better, you usually have to pay more money. And isn't that the way it is in life? So let's recap all 3 heating methods for an amine heater or an amine plant. First one that we talked about was the fire tube type, pretty basic. There's some things we don't like about it. It's not, I'm gonna just rate this as okay technology. How about that? What about direct coil or a direct fired heater? I'm gonna say this is better technology. Okay, better. And then a hot oil system, we're gonna say this is the best way to do it. You guys are really smart. You already know this, but I'm gonna say this anyway. If we put dollar signs on this, you know, you go out to eat at these restaurants, you know, you get online and they do dollar signs. I'm gonna follow that nomenclature. As you might imagine, it looks like this. $1 for the fire tube, $2 for the direct coil, and then $3 for the hot oil system. Now, it's not multipliers, right? This system is not 3 times more than this system. It's more expensive. It might be 50% more expensive, but it is more expensive, but it is the best and is what we would recommend in midstream service for an amine plant.